This week, preparation, from Sherman planning his South Carolina campaign to Davis planning how to combat Tecumseh to secret plans for peace. And lastly, a plan to end slavery. The future isn't certain, but by God will we try to force it to be. Starting this week with Sherman and Savannah. The 7th, he writes to Admiral Dahlgren requesting Admiral Porter for naval assistance.
I want Admiral Porter to know that I expect to be ready to move on the 15th. The more I think of the affair at Wilmington, the more I feel ashamed of the army there. But Butler is at fault, and he alone. Admiral Porter fulfilled his share to admiration. I think the Admiral will feel more confidence in my troops.
There's not a single back Sherman won't talk behind. Porter, though, can't move to Sherman's side because there's a second affair at Wilmington. Porter watches as General Terry lands his men surprisingly unopposed. Though Braxton Bragg is called to sweep the Union back into the sea by his subordinate Colonel William Lamb, but ignores him, and Fort Fisher is embraced by General Hoke's division. What does this have to do with Admiral Porter? Porter is packing possibly the greatest federal naval force ever assembled, around 60 ships, which accurately blast away any enemy battery and hold a small garrison in the fort with minimal losses. This is a very impressive show from Porter. We will see if he continues next week. Returning to Sherman, the 8th, the 15th Corps has a change in command. General John Logan returns and Peter J. Osterhaus is out. Both are able commanders, and I fully believe Osterhaus will find a good job in a different post. The 9th, Sherman receives Stanton. The secretary is here to push Sherman forward. Redundant as Tecumseh's itching to go. But there's a second matter, William's treatment of African Americans. Some believe it is almost criminal. Therefore, a conference is planned between Sherman, Stanton, and a group of freemen with spokesman Garrison Frazier. The 12th, Frazier speaks with the two, with Stanton in private expressing his confidence in Sherman. The elegant words resonate with the Federal High Command, something about ensuring the future of freed men. Final action by Sherman is a coordinated advance of his vanguard with the Navy, which gives Lieutenant Commander Stephen Luce an idea: the Naval War College, not to be confused with the Naval Academy in Annapolis. Responding to Sherman's movement, President Davis tries to bring together a force. With General Lee not moving soldiers south, he has to take men from the west. General Hood's army is ordered rushed to South Carolina's defense. And who will hold of General George Henry Thomas's triumphant force? Richard Taylor's small force. This plan is soon scrapped as General Hood resigns his command, and Richard Taylor is tasked with its command, though in actuality T.G.T. Beauregard will dominate the force. Davis is hoping that Richard Taylor can temporarily control two incredibly small forces long enough for a stable command to take over one, which will of course stand up to Sherman. Despite the fact the exact same army failed against Sherman in Atlanta, well, good luck. Davis, of course, has another out: negotiation. Francis Preston Blair has arrived in Richmond, and the 12th talks with Davis, who is willing to talk with D.C., handing Blair a letter for President Lincoln.
I have deemed it proper, and probably desirable to you, to give you in this form the substance of remarks made by me to be repeated to you by President Lincoln. I have no disposition to find obstacles in forms, and am willing now, as heretofore, to enter into negotiations for the restoration of peace. Am ready to send a commission wherever I have a reason to suppose it will be received, or to receive a commission if the U.S. government shall choose to send one. That notwithstanding the rejection of our former offers, I would if you could promise that a commissioner, minister, or other agent would be received, appoint one immediately, and renew the effort to enter into conference with a view to secure peace to the two countries.
2 countries? What is Davis willing to give up to secure this peace? Is Davis hoping Lincoln will have a lobotomy and agree to 2 nations? Why even go through this song and dance? Turning to Texas, the Confederate company under the command of Henry Fawcett strikes the peaceful Kickapoo people and are routed. Rebels unable to link up fall against a group of civilians. They go on to claim ridiculous things like Union Jayhawkers being among the Kickapoo. The battle ends in embarrassment for Forrest, and the Kickapoo move to Mexico to escape the destruction of the Civil War. Not that the Union could say anything, for the previous day we lost a battle at Julesburg in the Colorado Territory. Of course, that alone isn't damaging enough. The 11th, moving to Virginia, we lose to Confederates under General Rosser, who captures around 800 Union soldiers in a surprise attack. But flipping the switch, he only returns to Staunton, Virginia with 580, not because the rest died, but because he couldn't properly guard them and 220 escaped. God, this is embarrassing. Let's end the week with hope. Abolition, the national spread of freedom. In the House, debate rages as the administration and its allies work to pull over Democrat votes to secure the two-thirds majority they need to pass the 13th Amendment and fix the nation's original sin. And they begin to make headway.
The South, by rebellion, has absolved the Democratic Party at the North from all obligation to stand up longer for the defense of its cornerstone.
Lame duck Moses Odell of New York needs a job. Now, I can't prove anything, but for some reason his change of mind correlates with his name being moved to the top of Lincoln's list for naval agents of New York. Desperate to bring this war to a close, the executive branch have moved to take any step necessary to get the needed two-thirds. Lincoln Seward have employed the Honorable Bilbo to secure the votes.
I leave it to you to determine how it shall be done. Remember, I am the President of the United States, clothed with immense power, and I expect you to procure those votes. I expect you to procure these votes.
Fellow lame duck Robert Mallory rises to speak against Odell.
The Constitution does not authorize an amendment to be made by which any state or citizen shall be divested of acquired rights of property or of established political franchise.
He believes the Constitution stops an amendment from the Constitution from amending the Constitution would break the Constitution. What? The next day, the debate continues. John A. Kaysen of Iowa says there can't be peace as long as slavery exists. Fernando Wood, one of the leading opponents, claims the amendment would be tantamount to ignoring God's racial hierarchy. He is also a lame duck, but I don't think he can be convinced. The 12th Ohio speaks up. First, lame duck Samuel S. Cox, the Democrat of the West.
Whatever it may be termed, I'm opposed to compounding powers in the federal government.
James Garfield, also of Ohio and not a lame duck, I know I'm also shocked, responds.
Mr. Speaker, we shall never know why slavery dies so hard in this republic, in this hall, till we know why sin outlives disaster and Satan is immortal.
You know, I never truly appreciated the full extent of Lincoln's elegant oration until I had to read these honorable men attempt to string together an argument. And finally, Thaddeus Stevens speaks, limping with assistance of his cane forward.
I recognize and bow to a provision in that Constitution which I always regarded as its only blot. Such, sir, was my position, not disturbing slavery where the Constitution protected it, but abolishing it wherever we had the constitutional power and prohibiting its further expansion. I claimed the right then, as I claim it now, to denounce it everywhere. We have suffered for slavery more than all the plagues of Egypt, more than the firstborn of every household has been taken. We still harden our hearts and refuse to let the people go. The scourge still continues, nor do I expect it to cease until we obey the behest of the Father of men. We are about to ascertain the national will by an amendment to the Constitution. The gentleman opposite will yield to the voice of God and humanity and vote for it. I verily believe the sword of the destroying angel will be stayed, and this people will be reunited. If we still harden our hearts, and blood must still flow, may the ghosts of the slaughtered victims sit heavily upon the souls of those who cause it.
Now it's up to Bilbo, Jesus, what a name, to get the needed votes. Lincoln helps by bringing a Missouri man to the cause, reminding Representative Rawlins of the great Whig legacy. But hopefully, when the 31st vote comes around, the men in Congress will hear the great people of this nation call for emancipation. The states are moving forward when the stuffy representatives wish to halt. Tennessee puts forward a state amendment to end slavery, and here in St. Louis, Missouri, does the same thing. Sickles time. He recovers from his failings of last week and makes way to Lincoln for assignment. Lincoln and Seward had a perfect position for him, not on the battlefield, but in the diplomat's room.
The main object of your mission is an understanding, clear and explicit, with regard to the right we insist upon of transporting our troops over the Isthmus of Panama, either to or from our possession on the Pacific. We expect in return benefits arising therefrom, also pledged to us by the Republic of Colombia.
The governor of Panama has denied permission to the Union's Navy, and Sickles is needed to remedy this. The flow of federal forces from the Pacific to the Atlantic is necessary, and even more necessary is complete discretion of the matter. No one can know. The 13th, with the son of a rabbi and a 19-year-old corporal, he boards the Costa Rica and sets sail for Panama. That's where the week ends, and it sadly ends with uncertainty. The political calculus at play is simple. 122 votes are required. Now that can be brought down by members abstaining from the vote. With such a close vote, abstention is basically support. This vote doesn't have a definite end We don't know who will change their mind the day of, who will get cold feet, who will try to make a name for themselves and break ranks. January 31st will let us know. But until then, all we can do is hope. Hi, it's Jonathan Teagan, the entire Civil Week by Week team here. It is true, we are in the final year. By my calculations, that's 13 weeks left. And I hope to see you each and every week. Thank you for your support for these last 3, and 9/12 of a year. It has meant the world to me. I will see this to the end. I hope to see you there.